ठीक है, चलिए, थैंक यू। So we'll start in a minute or two. Switch off this thing. Okay. So where are you from? Delhi only. Ah, chalo, good. And you? Kerala. So I know. And you? Arunachal Pradesh. Okay, okay, good. So I'm not sure if they have started the session yet or not. Let him come back. But what we are going to discuss is the very basic of this course. Let me just confirm if they've started the session or not. Start kar diya? Haan, come on. Okay, yeah, they've started the session. It's visible to me also on the screen. इसमें इसका कलर्ड वर्जन भी होगा। हाँ, ये ब्लैक एंड वाइट है। इसका कलर्ड वाला भी होगा उसी में। लेके आइए। Just a moment. Okay, now I have the file. So yeah, now we have it. Okay, and there must be a full screen. No, we have to do that only. Chalo, let him come and then we'll start. Anyway, so we'll begin with this. Now, this is your orientation session for political science, okay, and international relations. And what we are going to discuss is some very fundamental and basic things that if you are going to take political science and international relations as your optional subjects, for CSE examination, then what you have to do, how you have to do it, what topics have to be approached, each and every piece of information which you are going to go through from now on. You have to pick up stuff from it, that what is related to PSIR, what is related to political science, what is related to international relation, and what is the useful part. What I mean to say is, from morning to evening, political science and international relation is something which you see on your screens, okay, whether you like it or you don't like it, okay. Like if you don't like a movie, you can ignore it, but the reality of the world we live in, Donald Trump is not something you can ignore. Narendra Modi is not something you can ignore. The politics of the day is not something you can ignore. It's just the reality. Whether you like it or not, any leader, any politics, what is happening from north to south of India, throughout the world, okay, even if you are planning to ignore it, you cannot. Suppose you feel like, okay, fine, I don't care what is happening in Iran, fine, don't care, but your LPG cylinder prices will increase. Okay, when you have to pay extra money, you will ask someone that, okay, why the damn price got up, and the person will be like, because blah blah blah, that happened, and then you'll have to get into it. So the politics of our time is something you cannot ignore, and so the news will always be there, the information will always be there. You have to understand that what part of it you have to use it, okay, and how you are going to use it, okay. That's number one, you have to keep in mind. Now, if you see your handout, if you have, everyone has got this one, right? If you see, it's written that the whole syllabus and all, how much time it will take, how many topics, chapters will be covered, those are different things. You will see the 3 questions this session is going to answer. So the objective of this session is very simple, that by the end of this session, you should be able to answer these 3 questions. What PSIR really is, and the honest case for choosing it. The syllabus and the PYQ, connection, what examination actually asks you. Like, if you know what kind of questions are going to be asked in the examination, then from the day one, you will read things accordingly and not skip things here and there. Then the third thing, how we'll tackle it. So how we are going to proceed with the whole plan, and how in the upcoming sessions we are going to look into it. That's what we are going to discuss. So that's the whole objective of this session, okay. Now, before now moving forward, let me just narrate you a very small interesting story, and it will make sense to you in a very interesting manner. So everyone knows that, how many people here are aware that back, like before 1990s, Soviet Union, or the so-called erstwhile Russia, was a very major power, and America was also a major power. So they were struggling between each other, as in like they were fighting for dominance in the world. Who is a bigger power? Everyone is aware of this thing? Yes, they were fighting among themselves. Yeah. So when they were fighting among themselves, they were struggling in various dimensions, in various means. As in, like, they never bombed each other directly, but they supported people on both the sides who were fighting them. Sometime in Africa, sometime in Asia, sometime in South America, everywhere in the world, even in Europe, Eastern Europe. They were fighting as in the sense of space race. They were fighting in the sense of computer race, everything. Right? And we saw the major developments which happened in these times. A huge section of scholars say that also happened because of this very thing. Because the Soviets, the Russians and the Americans, they were struggling against each other. And then this whole struggle, it was their urgent need to get on the first rank, become a better power, that all the invention and all everything happened. Okay. Now, came the year 1991. One of the major powers, the Soviet Union, got disintegrated into 15 smaller countries. And then a concept evolved which said that now America has become the real superpower. Right? America has become the real superpower, and from here on, no one will be able to challenge America no matter what. And if you see, that's how America was started being called as the superpower. Now, do you feel right now America is superpower? Right now, just now. Like this morning you woke up, you switched on your TV, you saw that, okay, yesterday night Trump again has said something. No one is taking him seriously. Do you feel like they are superpower? Are they behaving like superpower? What is a superpower? Like in a normal Indian household, usually considered a father is a superpower. Said something, will be done. Or if you like, usually. Okay. If now in modern day nuclear family in India, in somewhere in Delhi, you'll see the father will be the superpower. He will say, okay, fine, this is how it will happen. Done, dusted, over. If the senior most authority is saying something, that do it this way, and everyone's like, yeah, fine. He'll tweet, I'll annihilate you. And everyone's like, yeah, fine. Tomorrow morning, everything will be fine. Let's go for an ice cream. No one really cares. So these are not the characteristics of superpower. So one thing is for sure, that United States of America at present is not behaving like a superpower. But in 1991, it was considered that they were superpower. And something has happened in between that transformed it all. Right? Something has happened in between which transformed it all to such an extent that now not only they are not considered superpower, but there are many players. On one side, China is saying that, okay, they are the rising superpower. Countries like India, yesterday, like the Indonesian president reached out and like there is an agreement between India and the Indians are trying to increase their presence in Southeast Asia. We want to be considered as at least the regional superpower, not the superpower. Okay. If you'll go everywhere else, if you'll go to Europe, Germans are trying to be superpower. Germans have just said a few days back that they will make the biggest and the mightiest military again in Europe. They are trying to assert their dominance. The Russians are trying to do something. Okay. So what is happening? What is happening is in 1991, we have come to a basic idea that America is the superpower, and this is how the world works. This whole concept became so popular in 1991 that people started calling it end of history. Think about it. End of history. Sounds awkward? History has ended. Why? They said that, look, history happens when two ideas collide. That collision of two ideas, the struggle of two ideas has been over. Now history has ended and there is one victorious power, that is the American. And now that victorious power is no more victorious, so the history has started again. That is the times we are living in. Okay, this is a very interesting time, therefore. Okay, the global balance of power is not at all balanced. Keep this thing in mind. The global balance of power is not at all balanced. Every country is trying to become whatever they can. They are trying to assert as much their power they can. They were trying to fool everyone. Everyone is trying, okay, I'm a major player. Everyone is saying I'm a major player. In Pakistan is saying I'm a major player. Fine. They don't have money to pay their payments, daily payments or monthly payments, but we are major power. Fine. Everyone is a major power. So this is what is going, and therefore at this present time, reading of political science have to be again done in a very, very cautious manner. because you'll switch on your TV, you'll switch on your YouTube, you'll go to an Instagram meme or a short or a reel, and you'll be like, okay, fine, there's just plethora of information from here, there, everywhere. Now from all that information, there is a very specific niche of information which is needed for you for the examination purposes. Okay, how to get that information out? That is what we are going to target in this session. Okay, so that's the number one thing. Now, if you come to the page number 2 of the sheet, ये फुल साइज होगा बस इसी का, दैट्स इट. ठीक है, चलिए ठीक है. Now, if you see, right, what's written here, what PSIR actually is, the map of the discipline. Now, political science and international relation is a subject which talks about the conceptuality of political science and the international relations. Now, political science tackles about the theory and the policy making in the whole political realm. The international relations section not only tackles the issues of international relation, okay, what is happening in present, but the underlying theory of it. Now, the very basic thing we can say, the behavior of the nation states, the behavior of the countries. That is what we are going to focus upon. We are focusing on two things: the policy making, the political theory, and the behavior of the nation state. And this behavior of the nation state then is something which will lead to the situations we are living in the international realm. So we are subsequently going to reach to that section. Now, if you see here, at present, the most important thing is to make you realize or understand this very diagram in front of you. Now, understand. For UPSC, there are two, from optional examination, there are two papers, paper 1 and paper 2, both consisting of 250 marks each. In each paper, there will be 28 questions, out of which you have to attempt 19 questions. Now, how this 28 question, 19 question works, if you'll see, you will not find anywhere 28 question as such, 1, 2, 3, 4, 28. What happens is, in total, you will have 8 questions. If you'll see an optional exam paper, there will be 8 questions in each paper. Out of these 8 questions, the question number 1 and the question number 5 will have 5 subsections. Okay, so if you will, every paper will have 8 questions. Question number 1 will have 5 subsections, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Question number 2 will have 3 subsection, 3 subsection, 3 subsection. Question number 5 will again have 5 subsection, 3, 3, and 3. If you will total it all, okay, 10 and 9 and 18, total 28 questions will be there. If you will directly count them, you will not find 28 questions, but effectively in the examination there will be 28 questions in front of you. There is a way to attempt these questions also that you have to understand. The question number 1 and question number 5 are default questions. You cannot skip them. You have to attempt them. Okay. So all the 5 subsections have to be done. All the 5 subsections have to be done. Okay. Out of the rest 6, 2, 3, 4, and 6, 7, and 8, you can attempt any 3. Any 3. Fine. But attempting any 3 will means, because all of them will have 3 questions each. So attempting any 3 will make it 9. Right? First and fifth will have total 19 questions. That is the effective number of questions which you have to attempt in the examination. Okay, in each paper. Now, this is true for all the optional subjects, not only political science. Okay, this is how effectively you land up at attempting 19 questions out of 28 questions. Otherwise, if you generally see, the usual idea is there are 8 questions and you have to attempt 5 questions. Okay, there are 8 questions and you have to attempt 5. Effectively, understand, you have to do 19 questions. Now, for these 19 questions, you have 3 hours. Okay, and the questions are divided into three different types. There are 10 marker, there are 15 markers, and there are 20 markers. Okay, it is usually considered that the 10 markers should be answered in around 150 words. The 15 markers should be answered in around 200 words. And the 20 markers is answered around 250 words. Now, okay, this is how they are answered. Now, understand this fact that by the time you will reach the examination halls and mains to answer these questions, all those 13,000, 14,000, anything between 10 to 14,000 people who appear for the mains exam, almost all of them know 17 to 18 questions out of the 19th which they are really going to attempt. Leave about 28, we are just focusing on 19. So out of those 19, 17, all of them know about 17 to 18 questions very well. It happens 1 or 2 times that you will be confused here and there one question. But out of the 19, 17 to 18 questions, each and every one who is going to appear in the exam knows very, very, very well. The only problem they are in, sometimes they are not able to reduce the size. Sometimes if I'll ask you a very simple definition which is expected to be answered in 120-line statement, but you will start narrating me the whole story of how this whole concept evolved. No one has time for that. So this examination not only checks your knowledge, but also looks for how peculiar, how specific you can be when it is required. So the idea is you can take a leeway of 10%. Okay, 10%. And that's also only on positive side. So 150 word answer can be up to 165 word. Okay, 200 word answer can be 220 words, and 250 words can be between 270 words and 280 words. That's the maximum extent to which you can go. But to be able to make yourself capable enough that you are able to write the answer in 260 word, 250 word is the most difficult task. We'll go through some of the questions also, and I'll make you understand in this session itself how it is very difficult. Sometimes you know the concept, but you don't know how to frame it in 200 words. You'll be like, I know I can write an essay of 1000 words on it, but to write 250 words, it's difficult. Addressing the demand, that's the whole idea. That is very difficult. Okay. Now, if you understand the very basic idea of how 19 questions are there and what is the absolute targeted thing we have to do in the exam, then we'll move forward and I'll tell you some important thing, for the most important of which is the division of the syllabus. Okay. Now, in the most basic way, the division is in 2 papers. Okay. Paper 1 and paper 2. Paper 1 and paper 2. And paper 1 has 2 sections. Section A, section B. Here again, section A and section B. In paper 1, section A, what we are going to study is the very basic concept, the theory of political science. All the theoretical understanding of political science. You need to understand that the rest of the whole syllabus will be based on these concepts. Okay, we'll come to your handout. I think it's mentioned in your handout also. If you'll come to, let me just check. Yeah, if you'll come to the page number 6 of your handout, page number 6 of your handout, there's a heat map. Yeah, after this. If you'll see here, there's a heat map, okay, of all the topics mentioned. And if you will see in this, the most important section is this one, which is the most darker one. This is paper 1 section A. Okay, so I'll explain this part, but let me just explain you from the very basic concept, and then this whole diagram and heat maps will make sense. So in the very first section A, we'll focus on the very elementary concepts. Concepts like what is the concept of sovereignty? What is the concept of democracy? What is the concept of republic? What do you understand by secularism? Okay. What you must have heard about that someone is a very idealist person. One politician is a very idealist politician. So what is idealist? What is a realist? Who is a realist? What is the concept of state? Okay. These kind of very fundamental concepts which then will be used everywhere. For example, let's see is the concept of sovereignty. Have you guys heard about the concept of sovereignty? Yes. Sovereignty focuses on some rudimentary definition I'm giving on the idea of someone having absolute autonomy to decide what needs to be done. So for example, in India, the sovereignty lies with the people of India because they are the ultimate master. We, the people of India, that's what our preamble says. So sovereignty lies with the people. Okay. Now, you understand sovereignty as a concept in paper 1 section A, theory. Then paper 1 section B, which focuses on the politics, government of India and Indian politics. Over there we'll talk about the sovereignty because it's part of the constitution. And then in paper 2, we'll again talk about sovereignty, because every now and then some countries attacking someone, some countries has some legitimacy issues, some places have been colonized, decolonized, attacked, something is happening on. Sometimes some Americans are in Afghanistan, sometimes Russians are in Ukraine. What is happening? What we say? The sovereignty of Russia, sovereignty of Ukraine has been tarnished. So that word is going from section to section. So this very section, we are going to discuss about the very basic concepts of political science. These concepts are then divided as in Western school of thought, Indian school of thought, okay, and the basic theories. Now, Western school of thought, we call it as Western political thought. Indian school of thought, which is called as Indian political thought, and all the other theories. Okay, so we cover that thing in section 1, section E, theories. Now, then we go to section B. Section B, specifically the title of the section B is Indian government and politics. Indian government and politics. Now this is again something very important. Everything which is covered in polity, what you read in polity, as in Lakshmikant you always refer, okay, most of the section you be covering here also. Okay, so right from what the various articles of the Constitution, not only that, but a lot of section of modern Indian history, as in Indian freedom struggle, a lot of concepts from there has to be covered here. We'll be looking into it. I'll go into more deep dive into this section. It will make more sense. And then what are the policy initiatives governments are taking right now? What do you understand by the concept of political parties? How political parties works in India? What are the basic ideas or basic divides of various social movements happening in India right now? Okay. How caste plays a role, how religion plays a role in the politics of the country. Okay. All those ideas have to be discussed in this section. Okay. This very section will handle with everything related to Indian government and politics. Now, after this comes the important topic of comparative politics and international relations. Now, in general, if you ask anyone, they will tell you that paper 1 is for political science and paper 2 is for international relation. Right? Section A of the international relation is something very interesting. This section is something which discusses not only international relation, but before jumping into the details of international relation, they discuss about comparative politics. Comparative politics. Now, anyone would like to try to tell me what is comparative politics? What do you understand by this term comparative politics? Anyone? Sorry? Indian politics compared to other countries. Yeah. So, how you'll compare? Is there any example you have heard about? Anywhere anyone has done it? Like, you can compare it. You can say, look at America, look at India. That is done from morning to evening. Every news channel, every short and reel you watch. No, not that. But have you heard about any systematized manner in which it is done? So, for example, have you heard about various reports or rankings which we get from international organizations? Like, you must have heard about the Press Freedom Index. So that means the institution of press has been analyzed of various countries. Okay. Then what ease of doing business index, as in the ecosystem for doing business, how it is in various nation state, in various countries. Okay. What we are doing here, ranking is something which is a final outcome. The basic idea is comparison. Obviously, when you compare, then you will tell this is better than that and that is worse than this. That has to happen. But the basic idea is always comparison. That is where we are coming from with idea of comparative politics. Now, comparative politics, usually people think that is something which is only pushed or only targeted towards international relations. But it has been seen in past 1 or 2 years that few of the concepts which have been taught in comparative politics are also asked in paper 1 in section B. So now what UPSC has started doing, instead of just comparing Indian situation with other countries or two separate countries, maybe comparing Ukraine or Russia for the present time because war is going on, they have also started to use all the concepts which have been developed for the comparison purpose to compare the things within India, the political situation in India. So this comparative politics section has to be taken now in a more independent manner than just focusing on international relations. Okay. Now, once that is done, then we'll talk about the various institutions of international institutions, as in global institutions, and then we go to the what I call as hardcore IR news cycle. Okay, that is the paper 2 section B. That is the last section. It is very dynamic. It focuses on what is actually happening in the world. And it makes sense also that you first go through the basic conceptualities, then you go to the Indian situation. You first understand the basic theory, all the definitions, all the theory, all the formulas, all the ideas. Then you understand what is going on in India, the Indian situation. Then you understand what are the tools of comparison. And once you are armed with all these things, then you jump to the last and the important section, which is called as the international relation. Let's now focus on international relation. That's why it is kept there. Okay. So this is how it is placed in the paper also. Okay. This is how it is mentioned in your official thing also. I don't know if you people have the official brochure. Brochure is outside. Okay. So after the class, when you are leaving, just take one copy of the brochure also. The brochure has the official syllabus. Okay, the 4-section official syllabus is mentioned in the brochure also, so you can match it from there and you will understand what I'm talking about. Now for online guys, I'll upload the brochure at the bottom of the live lecture. So this is one section. Now come to this. Look at this. Now this very concept in the model idea, okay, paper 1 section A, this political thought plus political theory combinedly is paper 1 section A. Okay. Political thought plus political theory. In political thought, it is the Western ideas and the Indian ideas. Okay. Now, this is what we called as 1B, as in paper 1, section B. Paper 1, section B. This is second A and this is second B. This is your whole syllabus, but to understand in this manner is a much better way than going the section way in which the examination comes. To understand, this is the way to go. That what political science entails, you go through the theory, you go to the various ideas, the various thoughts which have evolved all around the world, from the Western world and the Indian society. Then you look for the Indian government politics, comparative politics and international relations. This is the whole logic of your syllabus. That's it. Okay. Any confusion till here? Anyone? No? Okay. This is how the whole definition has to be understood. Now, after this, one very interesting thing is any other benefit of covering political science? Why should I do it? Why shouldn't I do anthropology? Why shouldn't do sociology or any other topics? Okay, because anthropology is smaller in syllabus. Okay, it is much less time consuming. So why I should opt for political science? Okay, so first thing first, political science should not be opted if anyone is thinking about that I'm looking for a smaller syllabus. That's a reality. Okay, let me go very blunt with this. If you are looking for that, give me the shortest way out, political science is not the shortest way out. Okay. What political science provides you? Political science provides you a very affirm way out. As in, what happens with political science? It is one subject where the overlap with the rest of the subjects is maximum. The overlap with the rest of the subject is maximum. Keep this thing in mind again and again. Covering political science means the overlap with the rest of the subject will be maximum, and therefore the chances of you getting more marks in other subjects will also increase. The overall understanding will also increase. Now, how this will work? So, sorry. If you see here, this diagram, it says that the political science and optional subject 79% of the syllabus does the GS duty. So out of all the issues, all the things you will read in political science and international relations syllabus, 79% of that syllabus is somehow usable in your GS papers also, in GS 1, 2, 3, 4 as well as essay. Okay. Now, whether it is GS paper 2, which is extensive overlap is there. For example, the whole polity, governance, IR section, social justice section, GS paper 3. Okay. Somewhat comparison to society section, as well as when you are answering issues related to modern Indian history, as in Indian freedom struggle, the Indian government and politics section has a huge overlap over there. Let me just explain you this thing. For example, in modern Indian history, you read about non-cooperation movement. In modern Indian history, you read about civil disobedience movement, right? Right or wrong? Right? Yeah. In political science, you have to read how the various freedom struggle movement between 1920 and 1940 affirmed the Indian standing in front of the Britishers. So in modern history, now you have studied the events. That non-cooperation movement happened in 1922. Civil disobedience movement happened in 1930 to 1934. And then Quit India movement happened in 1942. But in political science, you understand that how this whole thing is seen as a single evolving logic. As in, Indians tried to assert their authority in 1922, not much happened. 1930 again, not much happened. But by 1942, they were so assertive that they were really ready to fight it off. So that logic is something which is useful for political science. And therefore, when you understand that logic, you can again apply it in your history answers also. Okay. In political science, you also understand the various ways in which a particular event has been analyzed. So for example, if you see in your modern history syllabus, you are taught about that the Karachi session of Indian National Congress was organized in 1931. Okay, where a lot of economic issues were highlighted, economic issues were taken up. Okay, for the first time by the Congress. Now, for most of the student, it becomes a very statistical fact, which then they go and try to mug it up that, okay, I have to, from here on, I have to remember that Karachi session is important for economic issues which were highlighted. Okay. But in political science, you will be taught that, look, from 1929 to 1933, there was a global depression going on in America and Germany and whole of Europe. The direct impact of that global depression was also the very famous Great Depression of 1929 was also visible in India. Now, when the Great Depression was going on in America and Europe, its impact was visible in India. And that is the main reason why even the freedom struggle movement and the common people started getting affected by all what was happening in the world by 1931. And so Congress had to take a stance. So the inherent logic is something which is available here very easily. Now, this very logic will also be available in history optional subject, but then it will only be for history topics. Now we are talking that, okay, history is done. Now we'll jump into the paper GS paper 2, and there will be a lot of overlap over there also. Now, that is one thing for GS paper 1. For GS paper 2, if you see, in GS paper 2, minimum 4 and in certain years 5 questions do come from IR. Minimum 4 questions are there, and maximum 5 questions are there from IR. All these questions you won't even have to prepare separately if you have political science an option. For these international relations questions, you will be very easily, directly will be able to answer these questions. Even the questions which are related to governance section, you will be able to answer them very well in comparison to a GS student. Okay, so that is the direct overlap. Even in GS paper 3, you will see a huge chunk of section has issues like social justice, economy, and then internal security. Okay, all that thing. World Trade Organization plays a very vital role in GS paper 3 now. Nowhere else the World Trade Organization is taught as well as it is taught in the international relations section of political science. Okay, then you will see when it comes to the economy of India, when we are talking about Indian government and politics, what all has happened on the economic front between 1950 and 1990 and subsequent to that also is already taught to you in political science, and that is again usable over here in GS paper 3. So the quality of your answers will improve very easily in GS paper 3 also. Now, fun part, in GS paper 4, which is ethics paper, I have seen now more and more conceptual questions are also asked. Either they are directly jumping to very targeted case studies, or they are talking more and more about conceptual questions. So when they are talking about conceptual questions, the theories can also be asked. For example, I have really seen that one year directly they have asked what we call as Rawls theory of justice. Now, Rawls theory of justice is a concept which is directly from political science section, and it was directly asked, explain the Rawls theory of justice in ethics paper also. So over there, the overlap is increasing. Even in essay, you will see that there are two different types of essays to write. One is philosophical essay. So if you are going through the political science syllabus, there you have more fodder what to write, the content-wise thing, to cover your philosophical essay. Now, one will always say that, sir, in that way, suppose if I opt for a philosophy optional, then my philosophical essay will be far better than political science optional person. Yes, but then philosophy optional person won't be able to answer GS paper 1 questions. Philosophy optional persons won't be having that much overlap in GS paper 2 section. Okay, so if you combine it all, you will understand why this diagram works, and there's maximum amount of overlap. And therefore it is not a small syllabus. Very simply, if you are saying, okay, I have maximum overlap, your size will be big. You cannot say, okay, I have a very small size and I also have the maximum overlap. That will not happen. Okay, so there are pros and cons of this whole syllabus, but the positive side is the overlap is huge. So keep that thing in mind. Now, most of it doubles as GS. The fifth that doesn't is part of the win rank. Okay, now come to this section. What is the reason here? Why PSIR the honest case for a beginner? Okay, it teaches you to think the examiner pays for thinking. Understand why Hobbes built all powerful sovereign out of fear. Now let me explain you this, and this whole section will be covered. So let me tell you another story, 2-minute story, and then it will all make sense. Now consider you are living on this earth, but there is no government. What you will do? Sorry? Whatever you want. Good, right answer. Suppose there is no government, no authority. What you will do? Whatever you want. Okay? So if everyone will start doing whatever they want, can everyone do whatever they want? Think about it for a moment. If everyone start doing whatever they want, will everyone be able to do whatever they want? No. If everyone is allowed to do whatever they want, they will start exploiting people. And if everyone is starting exploiting, someone will be exploited also. Right? That's why you need a government. But government comes later on. Now, listen to this. And this is a historical tale. It actually happened. So let's go back to 1649 Britain. 1649 Britain. Struggle was going on because the king of Britain was trying to increase the taxes so he can fight France, and the parliamentarians were not ready to allow the increase of taxes. Simple, tax money. Everyone fighting for money, very normal thing. Now the parliamentarians, the MPs were saying that you give us more power and we will allow you to tax people. The king was like, no, I will not give you any more power, but I need power to tax people. Okay, this was the whole basic struggle. Fight went on and on and on. Fight became so big that first the king went inside the parliament, arrested some parliamentarians, and finally the MPs became so upset that they got the army on their side, arrested the king and chopped his head off. The king was killed. Okay. The king's family subsequently escaped. They ran away to France. Along with the king's family, there was one person whose name was Thomas Hobbes. He was a teacher. He was a teacher of the children of the royal family. And obviously, education should not suffer. Okay, so he was also taken along. Now, he was hiding or living in France with the erstwhile English royal family who were deposed. And he used to get information about what is going on in England. And then from here on, you will see England actually went on through a phase of civil war. 10 years the civil war went on. And Thomas Hobbes in 1651 wrote a book. The book was called as the Leviathan. What is Leviathan? Anyone? Anyone has heard about Leviathan? What is Leviathan? Biblical? Yeah, it's like a biblical creature, a demonic creature mentioned in Bible. Yeah. So he mentioned Leviathan. And he, in this book, he mentioned, because he has seen this whole civil war happening in England in which 6 lakh people were killed back in those times. So he wrote in his book that, look, if there is no king, there is no authority. And if there is no authority, there is anarchy. He called this anarchy as state of nature. When there is nothing, there is state of nature. State of nature, he said, is brutish. State of nature is insecure. State of nature is corrupt. And I am adding it, state of nature is about survival of the fittest. Okay. He didn't use the term survival of the fittest. I am saying state of nature is survival of the fittest. But it is not the best efficient way to go forward. And therefore, you need authority. And he said that the might of the state is like the Leviathan. Okay. If you will go through Bible, you will get to know that what Leviathan does. Leviathan rises up from the ocean and kills everything, removes everything, ends everything when the demonic powers on the earth is too much. That's the whole logic. So he says that state is like the Leviathan. It will have the ultimate power. And that ultimate power will be there to end the exploitation and end what is wrong in this world. And when that is removed, then with the might of the state, that is Leviathan, one good, neutral, unbiased king will rule. Sounds cool? Good enough? Now, if you don't understand Leviathan, let's take the example of Marvel. Okay. Now, who is the main villain in the Marvel series? Thanos. Don't you think Thanos does exactly the same thing? His logic, if you see, that the exploitation and everything is too much. There are just too many people. I'll remove half of them and most of the things will be solved, right? His logic behind removing half the people is exactly the same. What issue we have from the character of Thanos, that who are you to decide that half the people should be removed, right? That's the whole idea of being a hero and being a villain. But logically what Thanos is saying, that look, there is too much problems, corruption, exploitation, this and that. If you remove half the people, problem will be solved, because things will become sustainable in the long run. So what we see as Thanos is basically a modern version of the idea of Leviathan. As in, you can say that Stanley was trying to explain the same thing, which back in the day Thomas Hobbes was trying. Each used a different example which was more involved in that society. Back in those days, people didn't have Marvel comics, so he focused on biblical ideas, right? Now, if you see this basic idea, it's written, understand why Hobbes built an all-powerful sovereign out of fear, and you can answer a question you'll never see. Understand travels, memory doesn't. What is written? I have written this thing with the idea is, now in your normal civil services classes, how it is done, they will teach you that Thomas Hobbes was a person who was a 17th century modern day scholar who was born and lived in England, and he gave these various theories. The theory of number 1 was social contract. Theory number 2, he talks about the absolute king. Okay, and then they went on. They will never tell you this whole story about Leviathan writing civil war and why he wrote it. And since they will not tell you these things, you will never be able to remember things unless and until you are ready to mug up the stuff. Okay. In normal classes, you will be told Thomas Hobbes, when he was born, when he died, where he was born, what he did. He gave 4 theories. Theory number 1, theory number 2, theory number 3, theory number 4. And you will be asked to mug up the theories. You will not be able to. Now, here you see, it's written, in the year 2020, a question was asked, Hobbes starts as an individualist but ends as an absolutist. Comment. Okay. Now, we have discussed this whole story. The story tells you what? That Hobbes in the long run said that there has to be an absolute ruler, there has to be a Leviathan, authority of the Leviathan, and then there has to be unbiased, neutral, absolute king, right? But on day 1, when there was no war, when he had not seen the war before the civil war, he was also a very liberal, good person, like you, like me. Like, no, everyone should participate and deliberate, and then we should take decisions. He was also that kind of a person. But then he saw that people went on deliberating. Meanwhile, 6 lakh people were killed. And then he said, no, authority is fine. If my life is saved, I'm fine. That is more important. So this is his whole arc of development as an individual, that in the initial years he was a very liberal, cool, calm guy. No, everyone should discuss, decide. And then in the long run, like, no, absolute authority, because it saves lives. This is what was asked in the exam. You had to write that this much only. But in the normal classes, how it is taught? It is taught, they will give you the statement, Hobbes starts as an individualist, as in like the individual right should be followed. Individuals should have the right to decide what they want to do. But in the long run, he says that no, the absolute king will decide and you have to follow that norm. Otherwise, you people will fight, and we know what happens. Just this logic was needed. But this logic will not make much sense if I'll just start telling you or dictating you, unless and until telling you the whole story behind it. That's the whole concept. So always focus on the whole travelogue, how the story has evolved. Okay, all the political theory, understand this is a very important concept. All the scholars are children of their times. Okay, all the theories are evolved based on what people have observed. Okay, nothing happens out of the bound. Okay, for example, if you will ask me today to make a theory, Thomas Hobbes made a theory and he used a Leviathan example because in his time people used to read Bible. If you'll ask me to make a theory, I will actually give you example of Game of Thrones. Okay, or maybe actually Marvel, because that's what I have read. It's not about being religious or not religious. It's more about what's the most common thing which comes to your head, and that depends on the society you are living in. So all the scholars are children of their times, and to understand their theories, never try to mug it up. Just try to understand where they were born, where they were living, what the hell happened to them that they have to make a theory and not live their life like a normal person. Okay, that's it. That's all what you have to do, and everything will be sorted. So that's the idea, number one. Then the overlap with GS, we have already covered this idea. Scoring stable optional. Now we'll come to this after a few sheets. That one of the basic logic you will see, people think that okay, anything is asked. No, the syllabus is very static, except the international relation issue that obviously you'll be covering. But the syllabus is too much static. Everything is too static as long as you are not trying to mug up the concepts. Okay. All what I have told you about Hobbes is all what you have to read about Hobbes. Whatever I have told you about Thomas Hobbes just now, that is all you have to read. Nothing more, nothing less. Yes, one or two more key words will be used. Okay. But that's it. Okay. So that you have to keep in mind. Then it needs a no special background built from first principle. So engineers, doctor, whoever is trying to attend these sessions, it will make sense to everyone. Now, what I've told you, PSIR in the long run is going to not serve you if you are trying to mug up the concepts. If you are thinking, okay, Hobbes has given 4 theories in his life. Let me read all the 4 theories and all the 4 quotations of his which is famous, and I will go through the exam. It won't work. Because I can assure you that Hobbes lived a very long life. It is not only 4 quotations he gave. He gave the 5th and the 6th and the 7th one. Just like you can reach out to ChatGPT, the UPSC can also reach out to it and come up with the 8th scholarly observation made by Hobbes, which no one really remembers. But the answer is same. Okay, the answer is same, but no one really remembers it. So they will mention that in the statement, and then everyone will be running pillar to post. Oh, what is this new quotation? New quotation. The idea is same. Whatever question comes, the same idea, same logic has to be looked into. So if you know the whole story of Hobbes, what you will do? Okay, this guy is saying this thing. Let me just think what happened with him and connect it and just correlate it and write it. That's all. Okay. So that is how you will approach this whole thing. Now, the 4-paper architecture, which I just explained you. Okay. In the this is the whole thing. It's written here for you to review later on also. Only one thing what we are going to do. This is very important. In total, we are going to opt for 115 sessions. Okay. 115 sessions. Out of 115 sessions, 44 sessions will be for paper 1 section A. 19 sessions or maybe 20. You can always go with 10% plus minus. Never go with minus, always go with plus. Okay. 10% plus session. So 19 sessions is allotted for paper 1 section B, that is Indian government and politics. 30 sessions for comparative politics and IR, and 22 sessions for India and the world foreign policy section. Now, if you see, the first session is taking 44 sessions. It's not like it will have more question directly. Obviously, in the examination, this very section at max you will have to answer 10 questions only. Okay. Out of the all 38 questions which ultimately you will write in the exam, this section will have 10 questions. This will have 9. This will have 10. This will have 9. The reason for giving more time here is what I explained you already. That is the basics. Unless and until you understand the basic concept, you will not be able to apply it to the rest of the section. So whether it is the realist theory or the theory of democracy, theory of republic, it is applied through and through from paper 1 to paper 1A to paper 2B everywhere. And therefore, paper 1A sounds bigger in size. Okay. That's why we are allotting 44 sessions to it. Now, the key insight, the paper are in 4 island, 1 vocab, spend 4 time. What example I gave you a few minutes back, the whole thing about sovereignty. The sovereignty is first taught through the means of Thomas Hobbes, but then constitution and federalism in the Indian government politics, section 1B. Okay, we refer to sovereignty over there. Section what we call as paper 2, section A, over there we are talking about sovereignty, as in we are comparing sovereignty of different countries. And then finally, paper 2, section B, we are again talking about sovereignty, because we have to talk about Russia, we have to talk about Russia, Ukraine, we have to talk about Iran and America, we have to talk about Afghanistan and America, we have to talk about Iran, America, we have to talk about Pakistan and India, and China and India, and all that. So again over there, sovereignty comes to play. Okay, so that thing is something you need to understand. Now, the major issues which comes when we are talking about political science. There are 6 major issues which you will face. Let me tell you this class itself, and believe me, this sheet you can revise 1 month later after starting the syllabus, and you will find, okay, yeah, this makes more sense now. So in the day 1 itself, I am telling you there will be 6 difficulties which you will find. Number 1, the abstraction shock. The abstraction shock is, what is the idea? Anyone, what is the abstract? What is the abstract? Any idea? What is the abstract? Huh? Something imaginary. No. Unique. Okay. Shorter, conducive version of something big. So for example, you must have seen every research paper starts with the abstract. The abstract tries to give a executive summary or summarization of what is going to be there down the line. Okay, that's why it is called as abstract. So a conducive version of everything. What happens is, all these theories, what I just explained you, all these theories, if you don't know the narrative, the story behind the theories, and just focus on the theory becomes very, very, very abstract. For example, Thomas Hobbes has given a concept of social contract. Now, if I'll start telling you that social contract is a concept in which Thomas Hobbes argued that the society where anarchy is established is called a state of nature. When there was no government, there was state of nature. And the objective of making a government in a state or to establish a state is to end the situation of anarchy. And I will tell you, full stop, bye. Mug it up and write an exam. Okay, that's the whole problem. This is a very abstract definition. Now, since you are already aware about what happened with Hobbes and who he was, you kind of understand, okay, now I get it, what you're trying to say. But in very normal terms, you're like, what he just said, social contract? What social contract? But if I'll tell you that, imagine, for a moment, imagine, and this is a very evil idea, don't imagine about it too much, but just for this moment, think about it. When a child is born, who has stopped the doctor from killing the child immediately the moment he or she is born? As I'm telling you, this is a very evil idea. Don't think about it too much. But just for the class, the moment child is born, okay, the moment child is born, who has stopped the doctor from killing the child? Yeah, rules and regulation. Fine. So, how? Higher power. No, the idea being, the child who is born has not been yet delivered or handed over to the parents. Okay. No one knows that in what situation the child is born, right? Who has stopped the doctor? He's right, rule and regulation, but basically a CCTV camera. A CCTV camera which is there, which is, no, when he was born, he was alive. Okay. So there is a I. The I is of rules and regulations will come later on. Okay, when you are going to look for punishment and all. But there is a I. The I is of whom? The father of the child? No. The I is of the state. It's the government of the day. It's their responsibility to keep an eye. The doctor has taken an oath when he became a doctor. The doctor is aware if I do something like that, my license will be cancelled and I'll go to jail. That's where rules and regulations come. Now, look at it from the perspective of the child. The child is just born. The child has not done anything for anyone in this world. The child has not done anything for anyone in this world, but the child is already getting a benefit. Child is getting the security. The child has not done anything in this world yet, but child is still getting something from the world. Security. Why the world is giving security to the child? Child has not done anything to the world. A child of a dog or a child of a lion also in the jungle is not getting that security. Don't you think so? If a group of fox picks up a cub of lion and runs away, can the lion go to a court? Will the fox be hanged? No. It will be said that yeah, lion was not taking care of its of her cubs and the fox took it away. That's their food now. And that's acceptable. Right? That's acceptable. But when it comes to human child, the child has been given a facility, that is security, by the state. Yes or no? Yes. Now, what is this? This is the social contract. You don't really sign it anywhere. Hobbes explained it. The moment you are born, you don't have to do anything. The moment you are born, you are given an assurance of security, safety and security by the state. In return, you have to assure that you will also behave and not do harm to anyone unnecessarily. Right? And that's why when someone harms someone, state can take action. Because state has given you security, state also has given that person security. Okay? So this is called as a social contract, which is a concept of Hobbes, which comes from here. Now it will make more sense than what initial definition I gave you, which was a very abstract definition. So one of the major issue with the political science is the abstract conceptuality. Okay, if you read any theory, and this is just because I'm talking about Hobbes again and again, I picked a concept of his only. Otherwise, you can pick up concept of anyone. Like, how many people have heard about Plato here? Plato. You have heard about Plato? You have heard about Plato? Plato? Yes, ma'am, Plato? Yeah. Okay. How many people here know that another name for Plato is afflatun? Anyone has heard about? Anyone has heard this word afflatun? You are from Delhi, right? Pata hoga, afflatun suna hoga. Not heard about afflatun word? Nahi suna? Afflatun word nahi suna? Huh? The people from Delhi, Hindi speaking people, afflatun nahi suna. Movie hai yaar, Akshay Kumar ki puri movie hai. There's a movie. Okay. So, afflatun is a Persian word which means madman. Okay, yeah. And it's picked up from Plato. It was not used as a madman. It was actually a Persian name of Plato, which subsequently, when people heard about Plato's idea, they made afflatun as a synonymous word for madman. His ideas were such. Okay. Now, that's Plato's idea. Now, what was Plato's idea? Plato was saying that, look, we have to make this whole world very stable. Okay. The best way possible is to appoint a king. The king has to be unbiased and neutral, just like Hobbes also has said. Plato has said it like 2,500 years back, that there has to be a king. The king should be absolute. No one can challenge the king. The king has to be neutral and the king has to be unbiased. The problem is, can you be assured that anyone in this world will be totally true and unbiased? Anyone? No. So same issue was taken up in front of Plato also. So that sounds good in theory, but practically it's not implementable. So then Plato came up with another theory that is called as Plato's theory of communism. He said that what we will do is we'll pick up kids when they are born and we will make a commune. All the children will be raised by the state, will be taught by the state, will live within the facilities of the state. And so when they become young and when they'll turn 20 and 30-year-old, since all will be treated by the state, will be taken care by the state, they will act neutrally. I was like, but they will have family, they will have parents, they will have wife, they will have children. So Plato said, no one will have anything. I was like, what do you mean? So like, we'll make a commune of wives and we'll make a commune of children also. And the wives will live, the women will live separately, the men will live separately. They will, the children who will be born, they will be immediately taken away, and the men and women will be told that you take care of all the children as one, and you will, even the parents will never get to know who their real children are, and so everyone will be treated equally forever. And that's why afflatun. Okay. So that's what Plato's idea is. Plato's theory of communism. Okay. But if you start thinking about Plato's theory of communism directly in the terms, as in like if someone tells you like this, that look, Plato isn't talking about economic communism. He's talking about political communism, where he talks about making separate communes for wives and children, making sure that the neutrality and unbiased of the people whom the Plato wants to become the philosopher-king should be there. Nothing will make sense to you. Okay, this is the problem of abstract or abstractism, which is the key issue of political science. So we'll take care of it. We'll make sure that we'll take as much examples of the PYQ, as much example of India, and try to narrate it with the story, making sure that the problem will be solved. Okay, so that's one thing. Another problem which happens a lot, scholar overload. One major problem of political science is everyone starts telling you, write more scholars and more scholars. Okay, for a very long period of time, one easy conceptuality is when it comes to optional answer writing in UPSC, names dropping is a good thing in the whole world. Okay, if you'll start telling everyone, okay, I know this person, I know that person, no one will really appreciate it. Okay, Delhi people do it, but no one really appreciates it. Okay, if you'll keep on telling mera baap ye hai, no one likes it. Do anyone likes it? No one likes it, except UPSC. UPSC likes it. When you are writing optional paper, the idea is that you will substantiate your answers with giving examples or giving the name of the scholars. The reason being, who are you and who am I? Me saying anything or you saying anything doesn't really matter, no one cares. So the idea is, if you are making an argument, if you have been asked a question, comment. Who you are that you will comment? Who cares for you? Neither me nor you are big enough that we can comment on a global event. But UPSC anyway is asking us to comment. So the general perception always have been that you make a comment and then immediately mention that look, this famous person is also saying the same thing. So you quote the scholar. Now this is where it all started, and very soon it became that each and every argument you are making, you are substantiating that argument with a scholarly observation. Every argument you are making, you are substantiating with scholarly observation. The problem in this was, people started, you have only 250 words at max. You have between 150 word and 250 word. The people got too much into substantiation and scholarly observation, so much so that they started leaving the demand of quotient itself and just pushing scholars. I have seen students who in 150 word answer have quoted 3 scholars and 2 quotations. And then where is exact answer? The scholar only. So always keep this thing in mind, that if you are thinking of writing more and more scholars, it's not going to help. I can show you answer sheets of toppers who have not quoted not even a single scholar, and they have scored 7.5 or 8 marks out of 10 for 150 word answer. So it is not true, not at all true, that only quotation by the scholar will help you get marks. I'm not saying it will not, but it's not the key ingredient. The key ingredient will always be the demand of the question, whether the demand of the question is served or not. If the demand of the question is served, everything is fine. Otherwise, nothing can be done. So that's the whole logic. Okay. Now, scholar. So what we will do is, in the class only, obviously, you will get this kind of handout for each and every session. So in that way, for every session, you will get to know that, okay, these scholars we have to quote and these scholars we can skip. Okay. We'll try to make sure that by the end of the whole syllabus, you will be doing least amount of scholars, because too much scholars are not going to help you no matter what. Okay. Always keep this thing in mind, that whenever you are writing an answer, somewhere 5 words into the answer, stop and reread the question if required, to make sure that what you are going to write is the demand of the question or not. Because that is the biggest blunder with each and every aspirant which happens. The moment you read any keyword in the question, you start writing on that keyword and not the whole question. Now, these are the kind of problems which will come throughout. It won't be solved in a single day. So as and when we'll proceed, I'll tell you more how to approach these things. So scholar overload will tell you the tired scholar list. Tired scholarly list means there will be 10 major scholars which are directly mentioned for Western political thought in your syllabus. There are 7 to 8 scholars which are directly mentioned in your syllabus for Indian political thought. So these are the key scholars. Beyond them, everyone is the grade B, grade second scholar and tier 2 scholar, and we'll mention about them, who are not directly mentioned in your syllabus, but anyway they are essential. So we'll talk about them also. And then there are tier 3 scholars who are like, for example, you are reading something in your newspaper. So you saw that, okay, Shiv Vishwanathan has written an article. Pratap Bhanu Mehta has written some article. Okay. Then these are tier 3 scholars. These are the modern day observers who are making their critique on an issue. So I'll pick it up and I will tell you where to use these scholars and how to use it, but they are not the most essential ones. The most essential ones are ones which are mentioned in your syllabus. Then the second one, which are not directly quoted in your syllabus, but anyway are required for understanding of the topic. And then comes the tier 3 scholars, which are the modern day observers. So we'll discuss about them. Now, static dynamic split. Now, how this has to be done? So on one side, we'll cover the whole theory section, Western political thought, okay, Indian political thought, all that. Along with that, we also have to look into what is the current affairs of the optional subject. Now, what is current affairs of the optional subject? It's very easy for political science because a vast section of it is international relations. So every day something is happening. Okay, thanks to Donald Trump, sometimes many things happens in a day itself. Okay, like in the morning he's a very good friend of India. By evening he's an enemy of India. He's a very good friend of China. By next morning he now likes Maldives. You never know. So there will be a lot of current affairs for paper 2. but we will also try to add more and more current affairs related thing for paper 1 section B, that is Indian government and politics. For example, the monsoon session just now is going to start from 20th of July. The monsoon session is going to start. What is the major issue government of India is going to raise at the new monsoon session? Ram Mandir? No, that scandal will be raised by the opposition. The government will never raise that scandal. Yeah, government won't want to even have an iota of discussion on that topic. Leave it. Yeah, what issue government is going to raise? Government is going to raise delimitation. Okay, it is already been listed. Government is going to take up delimitation in the monsoon session. Now, when we are going to talk about delimitation, a lot of other things has to be talked about. Immediately, the census has to be talked about. Okay, the opinion of the southern state has to be talked about. One of the biggest opposition of delimitation among the southern states also comes from Tamil Nadu. Okay, you can still, by giving some extra Rajya Sabha seats or doing something else, you can still get some leeway from Andhra Pradesh. But what you will do with the state of Tamil Nadu? They will never accept, no matter what. Okay, the harshest opposition comes always from Tamil Nadu. Okay, now Tamil Nadu has a new government. We don't know what's the opinion. Obviously, one single straight line bigger opinion of the new chief minister in Tamil Nadu is that they don't want delimitation. Which any state, any smaller state which has a reducing population or which has reduced the growth rate of population in past 2-3 decades and has a high per capita income will never appreciate the delimitation the way the central government wants to happen. That's very logical. That's whether it is the Tamil Nadu or it's the states in the northeast. They won't appreciate it. Okay, but there is a new chief minister. We don't know the dynamics of the new chief minister. Okay, so we have to look into it again. The current affairs will also include those kind of topics. So what we will do is we'll provide you something like a 20 pager a small booklet on fortnightly basis, like twice a month. Okay, which will cover all the current affairs issues which you have to go through, connected to your syllabus, and it will also have it will have the current affairs issues for paper 1 section A, paper 1 section B, re-allotted, aligned, and that's all you have to do. I don't want to leave it to your devices that okay, I have met people who told me we have not read newspaper, but they get their news from Instagram. Okay, so you cannot use Instagram to get your news. Okay, at least for civil services. Otherwise you can, but for civil services, please don't try to get your news from Instagram. Using the online devices, it's fine. If you are using notebook LM, taking a PDF, getting out whatever notes have to be made, it's fine. But if you're saying okay that I'm following 3 channels on Instagram and I'm going through the reels to cover the news of the day, please don't do it. Okay, so all the news which is required for the syllabus we will provide you on a fortnightly basis, making sure this whole current thread will be answered. Answer writing gap. So what we will do here is, in your whole plan of the political science optional subject, there will be 13 tests. Okay, and we'll come to it. If you'll go in your handout, okay, and if you go on the last page number, not as in last, the second last is the second last page. Okay, there is a schedule written. Can you people see? Yeah. At the schedule, if you will see, the tests are mentioned. Test 1, test 2, test 3, when and where all the tests are. Right? These are sectional tests which will be covering all the paper of whatever section is done. Once the section is done, there will be a sectional test for that subject. Fine? Making sure that all your syllabus will be covered and you will have ample number of answer writing practice. Okay, so that problem will be solved over there. Then interlinkage and blindness. Now this deliberate clause link is something we will do extensively. One of the major tool to reduce the need for scholars is from this. Now imagine, what do you think? If a modern, like right now, if I'll ask you, have an opinion on Donald Trump? Yes, you have an opinion on Donald Trump. If I'll ask you, do you have an opinion on Mr. Modi? You have an opinion on Mr. Modi. You also have an opinion on Pakistani Prime Minister. You also have an opinion on Chinese President, right? So you are the same person who have opinion on all the various people and various things. You have an opinion on domestic issues. You have an opinion on international issues. Okay. Now, if that is the case, then don't you think the scholars also behaved in the same manner? Most of the scholars also have opinion on the issues of their times. So what we have done to deliberately reduce the number of scholars is trying to reuse the same scholar if they have important opinions on other issues also. There are many scholars who have discussed and deliberated on many issues. Okay. And if the same scholar can be used again and again, that will be better because it will be easy to remember. Effectively, that is also has to be looked into. I can't just tell you, okay, here are 550 scholars which you have to remember for your examination. Won't work. Okay. I can do it. I'm doing this job for past 10 years. You have 1 year. You won't be able to remember 550 scholars. Okay. So we have to reduce the number of scholars, and for that the easiest way is cross-linking. Okay. Cross-linking means we will try to cover up the same scholars and their observation in different sections also, wherever it is possible. Okay. That will reduce up to certain extent. Finally, as for the revision debt, the 13 sectional test will resolve the whole this portion also. Now, we'll talk about the Indian syllabus. Now, for any topic which you are reading for any civil services section, whether for GS, whether for optional, keep this thing in mind. The only way out is the defined syllabus and the PYQ, nothing else. Okay. Every year UPSC comes up with, for optional subject, 56 new questions, 28 questions in each paper, and it moves your syllabus a little bit. So you will see, if you just go through the PYQs of all the years which is available, you will get a majority, 80% crux of what UPSC is trying to ask. Rest can be current affairs. Fine. So what we have done is, we have already analyzed all the questions which have been there since 1991 till 2025. Okay. And based on that, we have divided the whole syllabus into 40 chapters. Okay. These 40 chapters are then divided into that paper 1 section A has 7 chapters, paper 1 section B has 7 chapters, paper 1 in total has 14 chapters. Then from 15 chapter till chapter number 39 is paper 2. Chapter number 15 to chapter number 32 is paper 2 section A. Chapter number 33 to chapter number 39 is paper 2 section B, most section. Chapter 40 is miscellaneous current affairs of international relation. That always something happens which usually is not needed to be discussed, but you never know. What happens, suppose Bolivia and Peru fought. It's not going to have a direct impact on you and me, but you never know. Argentine president, recently Argentine president came up with a very interesting, if you get some time, go and read about it, that Argentina had a very devastating economic situation from many years. Except Pakistan, it's Argentina which has taken highest number of loans from IMF again and again. Like, we consider it a thing of shame that we have taken IMF loan once. Okay, this you must have heard about this. India has taken a loan from IMF from 1991, right? And we always considered it as a shame. Think about it, Pakistani has taken it like 40 times. Okay, and after Pakistan, the worst performing country is Argentina. Okay, what the leave about Pakistan, you all know what they've done. But the Argentine government, what they are doing, they are in deficit situation for decades and decades. And a new president came and he was like, I will solve this problem. Everyone was like, great, do it. How he solved it? He said, look, why we have a ministry of women and children? Women can take care of children and it's fine. So he just removed Ministry of Women and Children Welfare. Then he was like, people can study on their own or they can go to private schools and colleges. Why do we need a Ministry of Education? So he cancelled the Ministry of Education itself. Okay. Within 6 months, the overall net expenses of government of Argentina were in net positive. Okay. Although people were hungry and running away on the roads, that's a different issue. But the government made sure that on books they were net positive. Okay. If you'll see any news report from Argentina, you will find in Buenos Aires most of the Catholic churches. Okay, like Argentina has around 88% Catholic population. So Buenos Aires, the capital city, the news came in that the churches and the in charge and the people working in churches, they are very upset because they are saying that the daily number of people who are coming to churches to get free food had increased by 10 times because government is not doing anything. But the president is saying, churches are taking care of it. Why should worry? Fine. Now, it's an absurd thing to do, but the Argentine government has done it. Okay. Now, does it affect India directly? Not at all. Will the government of India also follow it? Not at all. Do you need to know it? Yes. Where you will place this thing then? It is not connected to your major, any part of your syllabus. Okay. So you have to keep this kind of thing. Argentine economic situation in chapter number 40, that is miscellaneous topics. Okay, that's how you do. Okay, so we'll cover it over there. The whole idea is very simple, that this is the approach we'll go. The syllabus have already been devised, and the schedule which is written, okay, on the last page, that schedule is detailed enough, can also be used as a syllabus. That is actually what has to be read in the whole thing. Okay. Now, in total, there are 141 topics, which are then divided into 40 chapters. Okay. Every line is a question bank. Now, understand this section is very, very important. You need to understand this point. Read the syllabus like examiner. Every line is a question bank. Theories of state. Liberal, neoliberal, Marxist, pluralist, post-colonial, feminist isn't one topic. It's 6. Each askable and comparable. So what it means? It means how you look towards the state. Like, what is the state? The way the modern government is working. The whole everything is running in the most rudimentary form. That is the running of the state. Now, different government can take different approaches. Like, for example, that's why Argentinian example also. If you will see, in the modern day, in the present day, government of India is supporting a lot of capitalist ventures, but at the same time, government of India is also making sure that Food Security Act is properly implemented. More and more money should be given to Food Security Act, so that free food is given to around 80 crore people continuously. Back in the day, okay, this is the modern day government which is supporting the capitalist venture. It is trying to support all the entrepreneurs, as well as it is also okay to provide free food to people. Government of India back in the day was much more restraining. So you will see back in the day in 1980s, government of India was also providing security. Food security was not possible. We had less resources, but at the same time, government of India was not very supportive of capitalist ventures in 1970s and 80s. So the perspective of the state has changed. In 1970s and 80s, they took a much more socialistic or Marxist approach. Okay. And in the modern times, what they are doing, they are saying there is a sense of socialism, as in to providing the bare minimum threshold to the people. That what is the bare minimum threshold now? No one will die empty belly. We'll make sure at least you will have food. Right? But at the same time, government is saying, okay, the minimum threshold, the socialist idea has to be there. But at the same time, the capitalist ventures have to be supported so that the up should go high. Okay, those who are at the base should not go below a certain level, that is the threshold. But those who are rising can be supported so that they can go even up. That's the idea. Okay, this is a perspective. The Argentine government has taken a totally different perspective. They said, no, people will take care of themselves. We don't have to do it separately. That is also a perspective. You can critique the perspective. You can say that I don't like this perspective. This is a wrong perspective. That's your opinion. But it is a perspective. A government is doing it. Okay. Now, these are different perspectives of states, how states operate. And those concepts are taught here. All these kind of concepts have to be studied. Okay. You need to learn how to read a syllabus. So, for example, it's written here. Theories of state, liberal, neoliberal, Marxist, pluralist, post-colonial, feminist, all these have to be taken and asked. For example, there was a question in the year 2020 again. Explicate the conception of justice in the critique of communitarian theorist. Okay, now this, yeah. So now, if you will read this question, explicate the conception of justice in the critiques of communitarian theorist. I can assure you this will not make you any sense. You might think this is Hebrew. Okay. Does it make any sense? Yes or no? No. Yes. No. Yes? Slightly. What sense it makes? Okay. What is the communitarian idea? That you don't know. Okay. So basically you found a relatable word. That's what it is. Okay. In that whole question you found a relatable word. Okay. That's it. You just found a relatable word in the statement. That's it. Okay. Good. Good enough. Now, if I tell you a simple thing that a man is what the society makes of him. Does this statement makes any sense? A man is what the society makes of it. That means if you are born and brought up in a certain way, okay, in a society, in a locality, when you will rise, you will become young, you will become in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, you will become the man of that society, the product of that society. Yes or no? If you take a child from the city of Berlin and bring him here to Kolkata when he is 6 months old, at the age of 20, will he speak Bengali or German? Bengali, right? Will his cultural behavior, his taste buds, his living style will be Bengali or German? Bengali. He will look German, that's for sure. His DNA will be German, but he will behave as a Bengali. Culturally, he has acclimated to the Bengali idea, right? Okay. Now, think about it. This is basically what we are talking about. A man is made out of the society. Okay. This is the answer of this question. Explicate the conception of justice in the critique of communitarian theorists. Okay. What is just? What is justice in modern day and time? What is justice in modern day and time? Liberal independence. That is justice in modern day and time. The way we live in this society, every individual should have individual rights. Okay. When the Supreme Court of India said famously that in trying to make sure that one not guilty person, even by mistake, is not jailed, just to make sure that one who is not guilty should not be made to go to jail. For that, even if you have to leave 10 guilty people, that is acceptable. Okay. While making sure that a non-guilty person don't go to jail, if you have to, you are in a situation that you have to leave 10 guilty people, it is acceptable. That shows what? That shows individual right. Okay. My freedom, autonomous, individual freedom. That is the key idea in which modern day and time works. Fine. But there is another school of thought which says that the rights of the community are more important. Okay. Suppose suppose there is a terrorist organization which is saying that hand over a 1% to us, or will throw a nuclear bomb on your country. What you will do? Suppose there is a terrorist organization which is saying hand over one single person to us, okay, or will throw a nuclear bomb on you. What you will do? Think about it, sir. If a terrorist organization is there which is saying that, what's your name, sir? Deepak, Damung. So yeah, so there's a terrorist organization which is saying that hand over Damung to us, or will throw a nuclear bomb on your country. What you will do? What you will do, sir? Now you are the president of the country. You have to decide. Damung's life is in your hand. Damung handle it later on after the class. Okay, yeah. What you will do? Hand him over. Yeah. Now, so hand him over, right? So what you have done? You have not done anything wrong. Don't feel bad for it. Okay. But understand what you have done. You have seen the greatest good for greatest number of people. That's a very basic idea. You cannot let the life of one person dictate the terms for 1.4 billion or maybe 70-80,000 people on which the bomb might fall. But a minute back, I just gave you the statement. The Supreme Court has stated that if while trying to make sure that a non-guilty people, even by mistake, don't ends up in jail, we have to leave 10 guilty people, will do it. Don't you think these things are in opposite? That's the whole idea. That's the amount of stake at limit. If it was a nuclear bomb, and that's why you were like, yeah, get rid of him. Imagine it was not a nuclear bomb. Imagine we smaller the stakes. We say it's a life of 10 people versus his life. Then you will be more confused. Like, now I don't know. He has individual rights. Immediately you will be like, he has individual rights. The moment I said nuclear bomb, you're like, leave about his individual rights. Okay? This is the communitarian critique. Okay? The modern day justice talks about individual rights. And the communitarian critique of the communitarian theorist. That means the scholars, communitarian scholars. So critique of the communitarian scholars is this only. They have done this thing. That whenever the talks is about the rights of the community as a whole versus the right of an individual, and the size of the community is smaller, you are giving more importance to the individual. But when we are increasing the size of the community, then immediately you are like, no, get rid of them, no issues, we don't need him. Okay, that's how it works. Now that is all what was needed to be written down in this answer. But they will frame it like, okay, first of all, conception of justice, then communitarian theorist, like, done. Okay, half of the people will be like, this is Hebrew, we don't know what is this, we are leaving the class. Okay, so we have to go through these kind of concepts over the period. Now, throughout, what we will do is, throughout every place, you have this kind of mention. Okay, just first understand this thing. In front of every question, here, for example, it's written 14 first 3A20. Okay, so throughout all your sheets, everywhere you will have these kind of symbols. Please understand this is how symbols works. The first one will be your year. The second one will be the number of paper 1 or paper 2. This will be the question number, and this will be the marks. This will be throughout your syllabus, throughout your whole course. Everywhere this will be mentioned. So you have to keep this thing in mind. Okay. Now, one more thing. A lot of times we have to discuss about this. Let me just tell you this first. In UPSC, a lot of question will come, as in they will give you one statement and they will ask you to comment on it in the syllabus. They will give you a particular statement and they will say discuss it. In certain question they will say examine it. In certain question they will say expand it. Okay. and he'll be like, what is this? And once says, in one question they will say that analyze it. Another statement they will say that critically analyze it. And half of the students are confused what to write where. Okay. If someone says discuss the particular statement, and someone says comment on the particular statement, and you'll be like, I was going to write the same thing. Okay. Most of the people write the same thing. Now, first of all, understand what has happened. So before 2013, the UPSC used to ask big questions. Okay. There used to be a 60-mark question. There used to be a 30-mark question. Okay, that used to be the size of the question. And obviously, a 60-mark question, you can attempt something like 1200 words. Okay, so you have to write properly 4 to 5 pages. Okay, for every answer. When you have 4 pages or 5 pages to fill, like 1200 words to write, you get ample amount of time to make an introduction, to write in detail body, in detail concept, then analyze the question, analyze a point, then provide critical analysis to it. So all these statements, whether it is written, expand, discuss, analyze, critically analyze, comment, these all things used to make much more sense before 2013. Because then in 1000 words, you can differentiate between these things. Okay. Like in a comment, what you will do? Understand this thing. Since we have discussed a little bit about Hobbes a few minutes back, we'll talk about Hobbes only. Otherwise, we have to come up with a new example. So, suppose Hobbes have talked about social contract. Okay. And someone says, someone asks you, comment on the validity of Hobbes' social contract in modern day. Right? Now, we have just discussed that yes, social contract makes sense. It is applicable now also. He came up with this idea back in 1651, but in modern day also, yes, the right of even a child who is immediately born is protected by the state, to social contract makes sense. Good to go. Now the problem is, question is comment on the validity. The first line you will write, if you see anything like a normal human being, you won't start writing from anywhere. You will say, okay, let me first write what is social contract. Let me mention Thomas Hobbes gave this theory in his seminal book Leviathan in 1651. You will write all those things. And then you will go on, okay, they want me to comment, so let me give my opinion. But few minutes back I told you, your opinion don't matter, you don't matter. Okay, I also don't matter, don't worry. Otherwise you will say, okay, why is he saying again these things? Okay, so your opinion doesn't matter. So what you will do, you will write your opinion, and then immediately you will also write a scholar's name to substantiate, making sure that look, it's not me, it's him. Please give him validity and me the marks. Okay, you will do that. Okay, now think about it for a minute more and you will understand immediately. Here the point, here the important point is, you have written the definition of social contract, you have given the name of Thomas Hobbes, you have given the name of his book, then you have given your own statement, then you have given the name of the scholar, then you have written his statement. You have already written 300 words. You had to complete this answer in 150 words. Okay, so then you need to know what to remove from this answer, and that's where the whole game is. Okay, so you first have to understand that what exactly has to be written in examine, what exactly has to be written in discuss, what exactly has to be written in comment. Once you understand these things, then only anything will make sense in the long and detailed manner. Otherwise, it will always be confusing in the terms. Okay, so this whole question making style, which is here, it's written comment, discuss, examine, critically examine. I've given a basic idea, but this is something which is a hangover of the paper which used to come before 2013. This is hangover of the paper which used to come before 2013. It's still there. Okay. And since it's still there, we have to understand that how in 10 words we can write something so that examiner will accept, okay, this is actually examined. How we will differentiate between a question where it is written as expand and not examine? Okay, so that is this is more of a skill which will evolve over the period of time. You will not be able to get it on the day one. Keep this thing in mind. Okay. Now, what theory of state I was saying, different perspective of states. Now, if you'll see, this is how it is covered. Now, and these things do come in examination again and again. So if you'll see the various idea of liberal versus Marxist state, what is the state, withering of the state, what is a pluralist state, what is a post-colonial state, what is a feminist state, what is a neoliberal state. Each one has come in examination at certain time. Now, keep this thing in mind. There is not much syllabus there. If you are able to adequately differentiate things on the basis of the PYQ, there's not much left because there are 3 points only in every topic. Now, when we are already aware, this question has been asked in 2001, 2007, 2009, 2012, 2013, 12, 13, 19, 25. Seems like a lot of times it has been asked. But this question has again been asked in 2025. So the probability of this question again coming in 2026 is very less. Right? So when you are revising this topic, you can take a waiver. Okay, fine. This is not the most essential topic. Okay. This is how you segregate. Now, if you'll see, it's 3.4 Marxist theory of state. Now, if you go on the last number page, go on the last page, again where the schedule is given. Okay. So, in this, if you will see, yeah, here somewhere around session number liberal theory of Marxist or no, neoliberal state, Marxist theory of state. Session number 27, okay, is Marxist theory of state. There is a specific section for this where this section and the questions, everything will be covered over there. Okay, so it all has been very well pre-aligned, making sure that nothing will be left out, because one of the major issue which will happen in the exam is a lot of sections are missed. Okay, and as expected of the student that they will read on their own, as in like the key concepts are taught and the rest of is expected to read on it on the, that won't happen. We'll cover everything because everything is very in sync done. Now, just for your understanding, as per the importance of the topic, okay, we have already provided the weight key, as in which topic is important and how much it is important. So we'll see the Western thinkers, okay, from Plato to Gramsci, Indian political thought, Gandhi to Ambedkar, all that has been mentioned, that at what stage what has to be covered and in what, how much detail they have to be covered. So that is given. Plot has been made here to give you again the idea that which topic has to be covered in what manner. Okay, so that thing is done. So you go through it and you go through the table on the top, and it will all make sense to you that how much importance which topic holds. Okay, now what the 2025 paper signals. Okay, this is last year's papers which happened on 31st of August 2025. Now, paper 1 hammered statutory institution and federalism, Jammu and Kashmir question, NHRC question, census 2027 there was a question. The chief election commissioner and the election commissioners, the other two election commissioner debate, the 5 sub questions on the cluster. Static thinkers still anchored at Popper, Plato, Locke, Gandhi, Arendt and Rawls. Now, except Karl Popper, which is mentioned here, Plato, Locke, Gandhi, Hannah Arendt and John Rawls, all are the key scholars which are directly mentioned in the syllabus. So there was only one scholar, Karl Popper, and that also came in to criticize as a critique of Plato. That has to be specifically mentioned. Yeah, you can always add more and more and more scholars, but in the question paper directly, only one tier 2 scholar was mentioned. Otherwise, all the questions came from the scholars which are directly mentioned in the syllabus. And that is really, really appreciative. There have been instances where one or two questions they have framed with the name of scholars who are not known by anyone, but that happens very rarely. Now for paper 2, leaned heavily on contemporary issues. For example, the United States withdrawal from WHO, tariff and the World Trade Organization. R2P is right to protect. Okay, we'll talk about this. This is a UN resolution which gives the authority to countries of the world to come together and protect a country if they feel like that country has been overwhelmingly attacked by some outside country. So this was in the paper, was highlighted vis-a-vis issue of Russia and Ukraine, as in the Western world, America and the Western European countries were talking to invoke right to protect in favor of Ukraine and fight against Russia. So that was something. And the Eastern world and Russians and a lot of other countries were saying that if you are trying to invoke right to protect in favor of Ukraine, then why don't invoke right to protect in favor of Palestine also? Okay, Gaza also. So that was the whole debate on which the question was framed. Just to give you information, this whole idea of right to protect, that all the countries of the world should unite and fight the aggressor, has been invoked once, only once, by United Nations in the case of the Korean War in 1950. When the North Koreans attacked the South Korea, right to protect was invoked, and the Americans and all the countries went together to support South Korea and fight off North Korea. So that was invoked only once. Since then, never ever United Nations has invoked right to protect. Okay. So that question was asked. Strategic autonomy, non-alignment 2.0, the nuclear question, the static core wins the floor, contemporary Indian for facing layers wins the marks that separate ranks. Now again, in the paper 2 also you will see that it's written here, the main focus was on static section, that is comparative politics as well as the institutions at the global institutions. So a lot of people think again and again that in paper 2 it's all current affairs, but no. If you just analyze the 2025 paper, you will see a huge number of questions came for comparative politics as well as the global institutions. Those answers also required more knowledge about the static idea. Like for example, this whole idea of right to protect or resolution to protect. Okay, this whole resolution to protect, which is called as resolution number 377 of UNSC, is now considered a part of static section of static section of international relations. Because the resolution was passed in 1950. It's in the syllabus. The only thing which you needed in the examination was the knowledge that the Western countries are trying to invoke it with respect to Ukraine. Rest, all the theory has to be used from the static section only. Okay, so keep that thing in mind. That is how you approach this section. Now, scholars, as I told you, there are 3 tiers of scholars which we have to cover when we'll be doing this syllabus. Those who are directly mentioned in your syllabus, like Plato, Machiavelli, Locke, Mill, Gandhi, Aristotle, Hobbes, Hegel, Marx, Gramsci, Ambedkar. There are few more, Hannah Arendt, Ambedkar you have done. So there are few more scholars, but these are the major scholars from Western political thought and Indian political thought. We'll discuss about the details of what is Western political thought, what is Indian political thought in lecture number 1 itself. But let me give you a basic idea so that it won't be like it doesn't make any sense. Just give me a second. No, and not. Now, how it all makes sense? This master list have the major scholars from Western political thought. In Indian political thought, you have scholars like Gandhi ji, Ambedkar, Sri Aurobindo, Sayyid Ahmad Khan, even Kautilya. There are some Buddhist tradition thoughts. Okay, their Vedic thoughts are also mentioned. Okay, little bit only, but they are mentioned. Okay, even Manu, the ideas of Manu, the Hindu, old historical Hindu idea, that is mentioned in the syllabus. Now, Indian political thought we have to cover, and it is a very interesting concept because it is only covered in India. Okay, if you will go on the other side, if you just see the paper of Pakistan, because they also conduct exam for civil services, and in their exam they say political Pakistani political thought. The Koreans have Western political thought and the Korean political thought. So every country comes up with their logic, their ideas. You're giving this exam in India, so you have Indian political thought. Okay, that's simple as that. So we'll go through them. The tier B, which are known and you will be used, for example, Kautilya, Manu, Aurobindo, all these one. And tier 3, awareness, peripheral commentator who surface only inside a theme, meet them through the topic, never build separate notes on them. This is very important. This happens with a lot of students. It happened with me also while preparing. Let me tell you this. When you go through the cycle of writing mains examination once, okay, and suppose you don't clear the examination, what you start doing is you start thinking that, okay, my answers were not good enough. Okay, since my answers were not good enough, what should I do? I should collect more information to improve my answer, because that's the easiest way. More reading. That is not the thing which is expected here. What will happen is you will start reading and you will start writing notes, pages and pages of notes on scholars who are needed to be mentioned once in 10 words. And you ask anyone and they will tell you that that scholar will not be needed beyond those 10 words. Okay, and somehow by the time of your 4th mains, you'll also know, that scholar, yeah, he was in 1966 to 1969, he was a Harvard faculty, and he was basically from Connecticut, and he also came to India once to Delhi in 1973 and met the Prime Minister also. Oh, who the hell needs that information? But that happens. That by the time you'll end up in your 4th mains, that will happen. You will get that kind of knowledge also. It is strictly needed to be avoided. You need not collect that kind of information at all. Okay, always keep this thing in mind. If because of some reasons your mains exams is not getting cleared because you are not scoring in your optional subject, either in paper 1 or paper 2, the problem is never about amount of information. The issue is either about writing skill, or it is about you are not able to interconnect the scholars and the information which you already have. Okay, and it is not just about my notes and my classes which will give you enough information. You go to right now in present contemporary time, you go to any coaching for political science and international relation, and the same thing will be observed. All the teachers, or not all, maybe 1 or 2 might not be good, but most of them will cover everything required. Okay, they might not give you the interconnectedness PYQ, but the information everyone will give you. Okay, the only problem which people face is interconnectedness, that the PYQ alignment, what to use where, that is what we are focusing on, and also the answer writing. So never ever try to collect lots and abundance of information. Okay, otherwise you will start getting, okay, yes, exactly the same thing. Oh, who is Brzezinski? I know who's Brzezinski. What I should do with that information? But you have that information for the rest of your life. So keep that thing in mind, not to collect too much information. Now, so how we'll do this thing, as in like what is the awareness thing? So what we do is, first you focus on the tier 1 scholars. They are the key, they are the main theoreticians. They need to be studied. Their life cycle has to be studied. What happened to them has to be studied, as well as what theories they came up with need to be studied. So everything about them has to be studied. These are tier A scholars, right from Ambedkar to Gandhi to Plato to Aristotle. It's need to be studied that what happened with them, how they became what they became. Machiavelli. How many people have heard about a book called as The Prince, written by Machiavelli? Have you heard about it, ma'am? What do you have heard about it? It is about Yeah, I'll take 2 minutes. I'll explain you. It's a very fun story. So this is a story about the times when Machiavelli was unemployed. Believe me, when you are unemployed, the best works happens then. Okay. So Machiavelli was unemployed because earlier he was a defense minister of Florence. Florence was a small city state in Italy. Okay. And Machiavelli was a defense minister. Then the government changed and all that happened. And Medici family came to rule. Medicis are also very famous Italian bankers from the 16th century. So they came to rule, and the Lorenzo de Medici became the prime minister. Okay. Now Machiavelli was kicked out of his defense minister post. He was very bored and he was also unemployed, so not having any money. So he said like, okay, what should I do? What you will do if you are unemployed? Huh? Sorry? Writing? No, you'll try to get a job, dude. Believe me, if you are unemployed, try to get a job. That's his mono. Otherwise, you'll die of hunger and might be also. Yeah, that's more important. Writing and all is fine. So he was unemployed and he needed a job. How you'll get a job? By applying for a job. If you think you are going to get a job by applying for a job, wake up. That's not how you get it. So he did the one thing which is most essential even in the contemporary times. Okay. That is, he wrote a letter of appreciation to Lorenzo de Medici. Why? Because Lorenzo de Medici had become a grandfather. Lorenzo de Medici had become a grandfather, and Machiavelli wrote a letter to him. And in this letter, he said that now, sir, when you have become the grandfather and you are also the prime minister, let me tell you how you should devise tools and mechanism of education of this newborn prince, so that when he becomes the next ruler later on, he should become the most effective ruler. And then he went on to tabulate around 60-65 pages of the ethical standards which he should be trained with, which are not the same moral ethical standards of the common people, and how he should behave, what he should do, what he should not do. And that guidelines became the guidelines for all the people who want to rule. Okay, and that's why it was later on published as The Prince. But that was basically a letter which was written as a CV to Lorenzo de Medici. It was basically done that he got an idea, okay, Lorenzo became grandfather, let me write him an appreciation mail. And in that appreciation mail, he basically was trying to show Lorenzo de Medici that, can you please give me a job? Look, I know all these things. Fine, that's it. But it became very important. It became very, very important because in that thing, unknowingly, he drafted a manuscript of how a person should train himself or herself if they want to become the part of the ruling elite. Okay, he defines this thing in this book, in The Prince. He defines in great detail that if you or me kill a person, we should be hanged. But if the king of a country kills a person, he will not be hanged, because his moral principles or his moral standards are very different from the moral standards for a normal people. Okay, if a king of a country, if a leader of a country has killed someone, it will be asked of the leader why you have killed him, and he will tell everyone that I have killed him to make a precedent for everyone else to behave. Okay, if you will kill someone, or you, sir, since you were killed a few minutes back, so now this time let's suppose you got a chance to kill him, and so this time you're getting murdered. So you killed him. Okay, now you'll be jailed or not? You'll be jailed, right? If the president, when finally any hanging in the country, when it happens with the order of the president. Minimum every capital punishment has to be given by the High Court, nothing like below it. the district magistrate can pass a capital punishment, but every capital punishment has to be confirmed at least by the High Court. And after that also, before hanging, every capital punishment has to be confirmed by the office of the president also. So in a way, we can say that the final order for every execution comes from the office of the president, right? Now, you killed him, you will go to jail. But imagine if the order came from the office of the president to kill you, then will the president go to jail? No. No one even will ask a question to the president. But the order also came from there, right? Because the moral and the ethical standards for the president is different. From him is different. Now, this is what was mentioned by Machiavelli. Now, we execute in a very different manner. We have all this hierarchy, so we don't even think about that thing. But if you just see the idea where the order is coming from, so the narrative is same, the head of the state. So moral and ethical standards for the head of the state is different from moral and ethical standards for the individual. And that's a Machiavellian idea. Okay. So these kind of scholars, when we are talking about them, we have to go into great detail. Okay. Otherwise, these are tier 1 scholars, Machiavelli. We have to read everything about him. What happened with him? Why he wrote this? Why he wrote it in this manner? What other books he wrote? Why they wrote it? I'll discuss all those things in the class itself. Okay, these will be the tier 1 names. Okay, then come tier B. These are well-known scholars, but they are not directly mentioned. So, and then comes the last one. So, for example, there is a scholar called as Karl Popper or Karl Popper. Now, if you see this particular person, Karl Popper or Karl Popper, he I call him Pooper because he poops in every answer. Any answer about Plato you read, you will find Karl Popper written somewhere. Okay, he's a very interesting character. He called Plato that Plato is a absolutist. Plato is a fascist. Plato is a totalitarian. Plato wants to make the whole, is the most illiberal scholar we have seen. That is what Karl Popper has said. Why he stated so? Because he was living in 1940. He was living in 1940 Europe when he saw the rise of Adolf Hitler. He saw that Adolf Hitler is trying to take absolute power in his hand, and whatever Hitler will say will be right and everything else will be wrong. And he immediately compared that, look, Plato has also said something like this, that we should have one absolute king. So he compared, and as I told you already, scholar is made by the things of their times. Okay, so he saw it and he said, okay, if Hitler is behaving like that, that means Plato also think like that. So now this is all what you need to know about Karl Popper. One logic, that's it. That he is a severe critic of Plato, but he is very important because it's the biggest criticism of Plato which ever came after Aristotle. So we'll talk about him in the tier B scholarship. Then comes the tier 3 scholar, which are the modern day scholars we have seen. So anywhere we will always focus on this thing. We'll for every scholar place we'll make a diagram or something like this. Like for example, if you take Gandhiji, it will make more sense to you. If we see, for example, Gandhiji have certain opinions. Like Gandhiji was saying that under no circumstances, no matter what happens, I will not allow any kind of violence. Who opposed it? Subhash Chandra Bose. Okay. Mentioned here. Critique. Okay. On the other side, what Gandhiji said? Gandhiji said that, look, personally, I am against caste system. Personally, he said, I am totally against caste system on any kind of differentiation on the caste lines. But the country is not ready to let it go. So what we need to do? We need to accept country's situation, and then slowly and organically we have to evolve system so that everyone can let go of the caste system. But he was not immediately ready that, okay, let's get rid of the caste system immediately. He was never ready for that. So you saw who is the next critique of Gandhi? Ambedkar, who talked about annihilation of caste, who said all form of caste differentiation should be immediately removed and completely annihilated. Okay, so another critique. Then comes M.N. Roy, Manvin Roy. M.N. Roy is not taught that much, but he was a Marxist scholar. Okay, is considered as one of the senior most Marxist scholar in India. The Communist Party of India initially in 1920 was made by him only. Okay, so M.N. Roy was a hardcore communist. So he also criticized Gandhi's way of, he criticized Gandhi on all the fronts. He criticized Gandhi's idea, as in, not Gandhi was talking about cooperatives, Gandhi was talking about trusteeship, but Gandhiji was not ready to accept Marxism or any kind of communism. So he was criticized by M.N. Roy. M.N. Roy said that in certain situations we might have to use violence and that is acceptable. Gandhiji was not ready. Again he was criticized. M.N. Roy also said, like, what caste? M.N. Roy was a hardcore communist. He said nothing to do with caste, nothing to do with religion. There is no space for religion or caste or tribalism or any kind of segregation. It has to be a very homogeneous standard or uniform standards. So again he criticized Gandhi on that front also. So these are considered three major critiques of Gandhi. Now Ambedkar, because he has given a lot of other theories also, so he is taught as a tier 1 scholar, but Bose is not. M.N. Roy has given a lot of other theories also, so he is also considered a tier 1 scholar, but Bose is not. So Bose will be mentioned here only in this way. Okay. Now there is an Iranian professor, Jahan Bigelow, who will be again and again and again quoted whenever we are talking about Gandhiji. Or there is an Indian scholar, his name is Sudipta Kaviraj, who will be again and again quoted. So by the time we'll reach these topics, I will tell you that for every major scholar, there will be 2 or 3 major tier 3 scholars, tier C scholars who will be remembered. So suppose if there are 10 Western political thought scholars, for everyone you have to remember 2 to 3 scholars. By the end of it, you will be able to complete the whole section in 25 to 30 scholars. Same thing will be applied for Indian political thought also. And so effectively, the overall number of scholars which will be needed to cover the everything will be about 60. Then in paper 1 section B and paper 2, we will try to use the similar kind of scholars, effectively making sure that by the end of the whole syllabus, you will not be have to mug up more than beyond what tier 1 scholar, which is directly mentioned in your syllabus. Beyond that, you will not be have to mention more than 70 to 80 scholars. And that's the minimum number of scholars we can work with. Otherwise, if you will leave things on their own devices, you will end up with a 300-page notes just on the name of the scholars and what to mug up from them. Okay, so that we have not to do, and that is the most essential part. So this critical web will make wherever necessary. Now, this section we have already covered. This is how the whole plan will go for all the 115 sessions. You can see it once. We'll make sure one important thing happens, that I'll try to make sure to give you notes in advance. Okay, so whenever there will be a session, I will make sure that you will have at least 3 upcoming class sessions notes or handouts with you. So if you are able to skim it through on your own, if you want to skim it through in advance, you can. It will make more sense to you. Now, I have full faith in you guys. You will not read it in advance. But anyway, that's how it works. I want to do it. So because it will actually reduce load on me also. Because sometimes it happens that one notes here or there, because there are so many notes, so many chapters that things go here or there. So what we will do is we'll make sure that for every class, in every class, we'll add in slides in advance, making sure you have it. And if you want, you can go through it. Topics, consolidation hand notes will be given to you. question bank. Now questions, there are too many questions. Understand this thing again. From a lot of students will do this thing that from 1990 there is a book. Okay, you will get unsolved PYQ books in the market. Don't buy them. We'll handle it here. You will get a booklet, okay, which will have all the questions and all the PYQs, all the segregation for all the 40 chapters, everything. What happens is the book, unsolved book, which is available in market, has question paper from the year 1991. And it has all the questions from 1991, and that book is available for almost all the subjects. History optional, pol science optional, sociology optionals, okay, all the subjects. The problem is, once you get that book, you say, okay, fine, I have to mark and read every question. No, you don't have to read all the questions from 1991. In 1992, there was actually a question in UPSC optional examination, what is globalization? No one is going to ask you what is globalization in civil service examination anymore. They don't even ask what is globalization in 6th standards examination. Okay, so the country and the states and all politics, everything has evolved. No one is really worried about globalization. They might ask you, when do you think globalization is going to end, or has it ended already? That might be the question. So all the questions from 1991 onwards need not to be studied. Okay, we have already devised what questions have to be studied and what order they have to be studied. We have it already enrolled in our system. So this is how we'll use it. Okay, and it will be done. No issues. When we are talking, for example, the lens we wear, this is again something very important, and specifically when we are talking about international relations. Whenever you are writing and whenever you are reading, whenever you are getting any information about international relations, always keep in mind, what is India's interest? Everything else is secondary. Number one thing is, what is India's interest? That's it. Everything else is secondary. What is India's interest? That's the primary goal. Like yesterday, anyone else saw that news? The Indonesian president was giving a speech and he was celebrating or actually saying good things about India and some relation with the ancient times when the Indonesian society and the Indian society, cultural similarities and the importance of Sanskrit and all those things he mentioned. Okay. You guys have heard about that news? Yes, you have. Anyone here? You have? No. He is already dead. So, no. Okay. Now, so if you haven't, now you know that Indonesian president had made a statement yesterday. Now, the important thing here is, all that is not required. We already know that Indonesia and India, culturally, from very ancient times, we are intertwined. There have been relations. Okay, even if you see in their currency notes, there are symbolism which shows that connection with India. That's true. Fine. What has happened? Indonesia has decided they will buy BrahMos from India. If Indonesia gets BrahMos, what they will do with BrahMos? Everyone knows what a BrahMos is? Yeah, BrahMos is a supersonic missile. So if the Indonesians will get BrahMos, what will they do with BrahMos? Fire it on Diwali? No. What then? To counter China. Exactly. So Indonesians have got BrahMos to counter China. Pretty simple. Great. Now, if they are going to counter China, they are solving two problems for us. First of all, there is a new defense sector visibility. We can now sell more and more defense equipment, weapons to Indonesia. And they are going to use it against China. That is even better. That is all what we want. Okay. The more enemy China will have, the better it will be for us. Okay. So, what we are now looking into India's interest. Yes, the interconnection between the culture, the importance of Sanskrit, all that is fine. No one is denying that. The soft power is there. Keep this thing in mind. soft power doesn't work unless and until there is hard power. If it was only about India and Indonesia having ethnic connect or some kind of cultural connect, that was there even in past 20, 30, 40, 50 years. What happened? In 1950s, India and Indonesia had very good relations. Since then, did India and Indonesia had very good relations? Don't say you don't know, because if there had been good relations, you already must be knowing. Okay, there would have been news about it. We didn't had good relations, or we didn't considered important enough to be connected. Why? Because we were not powerful enough in hard power terms. Now we are. We can give them stuff which they need. So all the old relations have been now refurbished and brought to notice. Okay, so that has to be kept in mind, that what is India's national interest. Okay. Now, if you'll see in 2025, there was a question. India continues to invoke strategic autonomy vis-a-vis both the United States and Russia, rejecting United States mediation on Kashmir and refusing to criticize Russia over Ukraine. Comment. In 2025 again there was a question. For India, a multipolar world order would also mean a multipolar Asia. Comment. And in 2017 there was a question. How is China's Belt and Road Initiative going to affect India-China relation? Now, all these questions have to be looked into from the perspective of what is India's stance. Okay, and these are how you devise this section, which we are going to look is India's national interest. So everything what we are going to learn, we are going to learn from the perspective of treaty, agreement, conflict, treaty, agreement, conflict, flag clash, energy issues, global institutions, opportunity, threat, and balancing act. Now, for example, when now, the cultural connect has been so big that if you are living in Delhi, right from the language to the food which you are eating has more similarity to someone living in Tehran than someone living in Chennai. That's the reality of the situation. Okay, if you are living in Delhi, right from language to the food, everything has more similarity in Tehran than with Chennai, because the border was made 80 years back. What before it? Got it? Now, so understand this fact that you cannot let go of Iran, so you cannot say anything. Okay. At the same time, there are millions and millions of people who are working in Gulf countries. Suppose if you started supporting Iranians immediately, and immediately when the United States and other countries were attacking Iran, then the Gulf countries would have been pretty unhappy. How many Indian people work in Dubai? Suppose if government of India would have supported Iran, how many Indian people were working in Dubai? What would have happened to them? So what we had to do? We had to maintain silence, balancing act. And it's not like these guys don't know. The Iranians understand it, and the Saudis and the Dubai and the UAE, everyone understands it. And they are fine with it. Same thing happens when it comes to Israel and Palestine. Now, whenever you people are free, just go on Chanakyapuri and there is an embassy of Palestine. Has anyone seen the embassy of Palestine? No? Okay. Google it at least and see it. Okay. Not now, but Google it and see it. Or if you are free, you can go to Chanakyapuri and see it. The embassy was made in 1982. And actually, government of India sponsored the embassy. because the Palestinians didn't had money. So government of India gave the money to make that building. Okay. And almost all the leaders who used to come into that embassy, right from the diplomat, the ambassador to the leaders, they were all considered as terrorists by the Americans and the British and the Germans at the time. And government of India used to consider them diplomats and leaders of the country of Palestine. So those people are there. But at the same time, we have very good relations with Israel also now. All the defense equipments and things which we wanted to get from America, but Americans were not giving it to us, we got it from Israelis. Right? So we maintain good relation with Israel also, so we can't say anything to them. And so this whole Gaza thing, when it is happening, it's condemnable. But what India is doing? Don't say anything. Again and again. Yesterday only the Prime Minister's office has said that we are committed to two-state solution, which was suggested or recommended by the United Nations in 1948. We again said the same thing. You see the situation of Afghanistan. Okay, anyone has heard about Hamid Karzai? Hamid Karzai? No? Hamid Karzai was the president of Afghanistan from the year 2001 to the year 2014. Okay. Hamid Karzai in 2014, when he left the position of president of Afghanistan, if you'll go to Khan Market, you can find Hamid Karzai in Bahri & Sons buying books. Hamid Karzai have 4 children. 3 out of those 4 children are born in Gangaram Hospital. I have seen Hamid Karzai in the canteen of Gangaram Hospital. I was like, oh, why? Okay. Another leader, Abdullah. Okay. He is another leader of Afghanistan. His family lives in Delhi. Okay. Hiba Najibullah, the daughter of erstwhile Afghan president who was killed by Taliban in 1996. Hiba Najibullah was for a very long period of time, he was a journalist with the Hindustan Times. She also lives in Delhi. So whenever something goes wrong in Afghanistan, what government of India does, at least was like, okay, you guys please come here, we'll provide you a house to live. And this is something government of India is not doing right now. If you will go and you will read history, in 1839 also, we were doing the same thing. Half of the Afghan kings used to run away from Afghanistan, come to India, and they used to hide in Jalandhar or Kapurthala. Now the only thing is, they hide in Delhi. And they don't really hide, like we give them land and a house to live. The government does that. Okay? At the same time, recently when the Taliban foreign minister came to India, what we did? We sent him to Saharanpur. The biggest Islamic madrasa in India, we sent him there and he became a chief guest over there. So we also eulogized him. We're like, okay, fine. When the Afghanistan government was fighting Taliban, government of India gave free food to Afghanistan. We provided them money to make their dam. We provided money to make their parliament building. We provided money to make a civil hospital as well as gynec specialist hospital in the Kabul city, the so-called Indira Gandhi hospital there. We gave the money for all that. The moment Afghan government asked us that the helicopters which we are giving them for ambulance purposes, we should install missiles and some kind of weaponry on the helicopters, government of India said no. Every time Afghan government asked any type of help, Indian government of India was more than happy to give. Afghans were playing cricket, government of India was like, okay, there is instability in your country, send your team to India. BCCI will fund their training, and we gave them a whole cricket ground in Noida, and we made Ajay Jadeja, who was an Indian cricket player, the coach of Afghan cricket team, and we paid for all their training also. It was like, fine. But every time they were fighting with the Taliban, it was like, we won't give you money for that. So what India did? India was confused at that stage. So what India did? India said that, look, We will help your common people. We will try to improve their life. But we will not get involved and we will not take sides in the political fight. That is the reason you will see that now when Taliban is in power, we still maintain good relations with them. Initially, it was not expected at all. But India has better relation with Taliban than Pakistan has relation with Taliban right now. It is only because of that. Because even Taliban realize that what India has done, India has never officially said that no, you are wrong and we will oppose you. Okay. So that was what? A balancing act. So obviously, this is just, I'm giving you an example. We'll cover India-Afghan relation and we'll go into these in more detail and exactly what happened. Now, what are the major threats and the recent threats which are more like, for example, AI industry related, okay, or whether it is chip related, okay, all those things we also have to cover in. So all the international relations have to be covered from India's national interest standard. After that, answer writing from day one. So we expect you to read it in advance. That's all we expect you. Okay. But if it happens, it's great. If otherwise, we'll go with the classes. We'll always make sure the interlinking habit come in. Look, that's the whole thing. Critically examine Plato, philosopher-king. This is a conceptual idea. Now, if you are focusing on it and you are able to interconnect the questions of Western political thought with the Indian political thought, you will fetch more marks. If you are able to give, for example, I'll give an example. If someone asks, okay, Plato, if we just mentioned Plato a few minutes back and then we skipped from there. What do you think? What's the big thing Plato has done? Why he is so famous? Anyone? What's the big thing Plato has done? Why is so famous? Any idea, anyone? No idea? Okay. Have you heard about platonic love? Has anyone heard about the word like this thing, platonic love? No, yes, yes, no? Yeah, what do you have heard? Yeah. Huh? What you have heard? Ma'am, what is platonic love? No idea? No. Haven't you heard this word ever? Anyone? The love which is not romantic. Okay. Anything else? No, ma'am. I get it where you're coming from. But it's the love which is not physical. Okay. When you love someone, in the modern parlance, in the modern time, contemporary times, when someone says that we are in a platonic relationship, this is a very common word people use. Okay, we have a platonic relationship. Okay, what is a platonic relationship? It says that we cannot be together, but we have this connect. Okay, we have this connect. This is how it is explained, platonic. Why the word platonic is used? Because 2500 years back, Plato came up with this idea. Plato said that, look, why we are here on this world? He said that whatever you are looking in front of you, it's all imagination. It's your imagination, it's my imagination. The reality is somewhere else. This is not the real world. Okay, the reality is somewhere else. Okay, he said that this cup is not a real cup. The real cup is a perfect cup which is somewhere else. What this cup wants to do is to become that cup. Okay, listen, this is a very interesting thing. This watch is not a real perfect watch. There's a perfect watch somewhere. This objective of this watch on this earth is to become that watch. You are not the perfect you. There's a perfect you somewhere else. And your objective on this earth is to work hard enough to become that perfect. All these perfect things are in a real world which will be perfect. And this over here is not perfect. And that is another realm, this is another realm. So when someone says about platonic love and all, so the idea is there is another realm where everything is perfect. Okay. Over there we have a relationship, not here. Okay. So whenever someone meets you and say they have a platonic relation with someone, punch them hard. Punch them real hard. Okay. That's the least you can do for their goodwill. Now, after this, so understood where this word comes from. Now, why the hell I am telling you all this? We are in a political science class. So I am telling you all this because Plato then from here only he said that if this watch has to have a perfect watch, if this chair has to have a perfect chair, and the chair has to become that chair. If you are imperfect and you have to become perfect, then this state also is imperfect. This country also, this government also is imperfect. And there is a perfect state. And the objective of this state is to become that state. And that is how he evolved this philosophical idea into political science. Because now everyone will ask him, okay, fine. Got it? So the idea of state has to be perfected. Tell us how. And he said that, look, okay, I have to tell you. Okay, let's do this thing. We will assign everyone works and we will tell them to do it. If everyone do what work has been assigned to them, we will cross the first step. The second step is we need to have an unbiased and neutral king. Okay, everyone's like, okay, fine, then how you'll find that unbiased and neutral king? Then he said, we'll make an education system for that. And then he went into the detail of the education system. Then people said that, but no matter what you do, people will be biased and never be neutral. Then he came up with this idea of communism, that we will segregate men and women and we will make sure everyone lives under the guidance of state. There will be no mother and father. There will be no sister and brother. Okay. There will be no husband and wife. And then people will be neutral. So all these things which he evolved, all these concepts, whether his communism, his education concept, his philosophy, his king concept, all that was evolved for one single thing. That is, he was trying to make this state a perfect state. And that was his idea. Okay. So effectively, you have to learn just one concept, Plato's, and then every concept of his is a devolved, or it's basically a step towards his main concept. Okay. Now here the question, critically examine Plato's philosopher-king. That is what he said should be the perfect king. Now, the question is, are you able to connect the modern day times or contemporary times to the demand of the question? Now, what you can do, what you can write in the exam, which will give the examiner an idea that the student knows everything so well that they can connect the 2500-year-old theory to the modern times. Think about it for a moment. Have you heard about metaverse? Metaverse, not only what Zuckerberg came up with, but a general idea of metaverse is that everything's online presence, right? And in a far more evolved manner than what we have right now, right? That's it. Why we are trying to make it? What's the essential reason why we are trying to make it? Are we trying to make it to make the system efficient? No. As a humankind, why we are urging for metaverse? Huh? Escapism. Yeah, correct. But why escapism? Why you want to escape? Yes, because this is an imperfect world, and through online medium in the metaverse, we want to make a perfect world. Okay, how many people here play games like video games and all? Okay, so suppose when any game you are playing and you are taking in a new skin, okay, when you are taking a new skin, are you opting for a person with like a 6-pack or 8 packs abs, or you are opting for a person who is 150 kg in weight with a chubby body? What you are opting for? 6-pack. You are trying to get perfectness. Okay, so everyone has also evolved a form of perfectness, and in that world, this is what Plato stated, and this is exactly what human beings are trying to do even now. Now, if you mention this example, obviously you don't have to mention in detail. If you just mention this thing, the very existence of metaverse in the online vision of this contemporary society shows that we are still following what direction Plato has shown us. You will immediately get 2 more marks, because it's not that word, but that statement assures the examiner that how clear you are in conceptuality. Okay, so this is what you have to focus on. Okay, now when they talk about critically examine Plato's philosopher-king, now I'll give you another example. You will see in modern day and time, whenever someone becomes a leader of a country, male or female, they are always shown as an individual and never as like a husband and wife or like a couple. Never. Usually, why? Have you seen this thing? It has happened always. Like, understand. And when I'm giving example of Hitler, don't consider it negative or positive. Here we are talking only in terms of a leadership position. So Hitler had a relationship, and later on he also got married before he was killed or he was murdered. No, he was suicide. Okay, fine. So he committed suicide. But before, Hitler was there, but always throughout he was in power, he was shown as an individual alone. Fine. You go to Julius Caesar, Roman times, Caesar had a wife. But now this is also part of a Shakespearean idea that Caesar's wife was always kept outside. Right? Caesar was always shown as an individual, alone. Right? You come to the modern times, you see Jawaharlal Nehru. Mr. Nehru had a wife, but he was always shown as an individual. You come to even more modern times, you see Mr. Modi as an individual. Right? You go to Pakistan, there was a Imran Khan as an individual. You come to state politics, you see, we're talking about Tamil Nadu, you see Mr. Vijay as an individual, alone, always. Okay? He has a family, but he is always shown as an individual. Okay? You come to UP, individual, isolated individual. Okay? What they are trying to do? They are trying to imbibe the Platonic idea of a king. What Plato said? Plato said that you have to be neutral and unbiased. The biggest problem why people are not being able to neutral and unbiased is family. Family otherwise is good, but one of the major, any person, the weakest choke point or weak point or Achilles heel of any person will always be their family. Right? So what we see here is all the leaders, even in the modern times, always try to portray themselves as a single standalone individual. Okay? Because that is more acceptable by the people, and people then think this person will not be honest or will be honest. Always. When Prime Minister Modi, and he said in speeches very famously, and he said in Hindi कि हम तो फकीर आदमी हैं, झोला लेके चले जाएंगे. Okay, he says this thing, okay, that हम तो फकीर आदमी हैं, okay, and we'll pick up our bag and we'll leave. What symbolizes this thing? This thing symbolizes what? It symbolizes Plato's idea of the philosopher-king, unbiased, neutral disassociation with the society, impassionate behavior. Right? So this is how you connect it to the contemporary times. In this question, a critically examined Plato's philosopher-king, whosoever wrote about it, that the contemporary visualization of the leaders as isolationist, absolutist ruler who have unbiased and neutral characteristics will fetch 2 extra marks. Right? So this is how we'll talk about these things and then contemporary issues and how to connect with that. Okay, so this is one thing. Then these are the major scholars who will start with them, and these are the theories which we'll go through. Finally, your first task, what we'll do is you have to reread this whole thing today. We'll wrap up the session now, but before wrapping up, what we'll do is you will reread this whole thing. Okay, and the official classes will start from Monday. Okay, and before Monday, what you have to do is you by Sunday I will give you the handouts for 3 more lectures. Okay, so on Monday when you will be here, you'll have 3 more lectures sheets with you. You can read it if you can, where we will start with Western political thought, and then we'll jump into Plato, Aristotle, and all those things one by one. Okay, now on the last sheet, okay, this is Appendix E. Okay, which is Appendix E, is written a detailed schedule session by session, okay, of what will be covered when and how, making sure that the timetable is maintained and we are not skipping any of the section, and the tests are mentioned in between. Right now at present we'll have 3 sessions per week for the first 2 sessions, first 2 weeks, and after that from the 3rd week we'll have 5 sessions every week. Okay, 3 sessions per week initially we are having for the single and sole reason, because if I'll start with 5 sessions a week, you will leave this realm and you will immediately go to the other realm, because within a week you'll be perfect. Okay, that will be too much. If we'll just do 15 hours every week, okay, something like 15 hours every week, that will be too much of a content in the first week itself. We should not do that. We'll wrap up less than 10 hours in the first 2 weeks, 10 hours, and then we'll increase it to 5 classes a week. Okay, that is how we'll approach. This also can act as a division of the syllabus. Okay, there's nothing beyond this which is already defined, so you can use it as your division of the syllabus. Also, if you want, you can collect the brochure from outside. It will also have all the details, okay, like official syllabus as well as this syllabus. So that is all. If you have any other queries, you can ask me. Otherwise, we'll wrap up the lecture. Tell me. No doubts, no issues. All set. Yeah, you? Any queries? No. He is like, I'm anyway dead. No, you're not dead. Don't worry. Yeah. Anyone? Any queries? Anything? No? Fine. Thank you.